Welcome to the show. Once again, another ISO show coming to you on a Tuesday, May 6th, day after Cinco de Mayo, 2 days after Star Wars Day, and 1 day after two enormous game ones in the second round of the NBA. What a beautiful time in the NBA. We got some great basketball being played, two super competitive series where the Knicks and the Nuggets both steal back home court in their respective series. Knicks, of course, go into overtime with the Celtics and win 108-105. And the Nuggets avoid overtime with another Aaron Gordon buzzer beater, his second of the playoffs thus far. Actually, technically not a buzzer beater because I think there was a couple seconds left on the clock after he made that three. But nevertheless, a huge shot, huge performance in crunch time for Aaron Gordon for the Nuggets, and we'll get into that. We're going to touch on the Knicks Celtics, of course. We'll preview the two games tonight, Pacers Cavs game 2 and Warriors Timberwolves game 1. But first off, we got to start out with the Knicks and the Celtics, of course. Huge game for the psyche of the Knicks and the Knicks fans because I think I felt like going into this game, most Knicks fans were sort of resigned to the idea that they had no shot in this series. Celtics fans all feeling pretty confident, and just felt like generally people were like the Knicks have no shot if they get with the way that they played against the Pistons, which I feel was never really fair because people need to stop acting like that Pistons series that the Knicks were supposed to walk all over the Pistons. The Pistons are a good team, man. Like, yes, maybe they had their opportunities and they wasted them. They had an opportunity to win game 5 at home, and I know it was disappointing to see them have to go back to Detroit and play that game 6, but don't sleep on Detroit, man. Detroit gave them a hard series, and Detroit's style of play was going to be tough for anybody. So I don't think that the way that people view that series and the way it played out should translate to automatically assuming that the Knicks are just going to get totally bum rushed by the Celtics, which of course they did not. Now, some interesting things happened in this game. Knicks came out to a hot start, which I didn't really think they would do. I thought coming off of the travel of having to go back out to Detroit and then back to Boston after Game 6, I just figured the Celtics were a little more rested, that they would get out to a good start. But the Knicks came out feisty, kept it close for the first quarter, and then the Celtics started to pull away in the second quarter, and it started to get a little bit ugly. And I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, Karl Anthony Towns getting those goofy fouls, and it just kind of felt like, damn, is this whole script gonna play back out again? Because we've seen Karl Anthony Towns have the goofy playoff fouls and completely get taken out of the game before. And we've seen the Celtics start raining threes and they pull away and embarrass teams. And they obviously they swept the Knicks in the season series. So it looked like it was headed in that direction again. But then in the third quarter, OG Anunoby comes through with some big shots, big scoring third quarter for him to keep the Knicks alive, keep them in the game. And then obviously fourth quarter is Jalen Brunson time. And Jalen Brunson once again proves why he is very deserving of being the clutch player of the year and not deserving at all of anybody's criticism for quote unquote ball hogging or not sharing the ball in clutch minutes. Like, listen, we understand nobody's perfect. Even Michael Jordan missed some game winners. But if Brunson misses a game winner or if Brunson misses a shot in the fourth quarter, can we please not start all of a sudden asking, oh, well, how come he didn't pass the ball? Like, I understand there's an argument to be made to keeping other guys involved, but we can't have it both ways. We can't be upset with Brunson because he don't make the shot and then be praising him just because he made the shot. Like, we got to trust Brunson. I shouldn't be saying we because I'm not a Knicks fan. I'm a New Yorker, but Knicks fans should trust Brunson and not criticize him unfairly if he doesn't get it done for whatever reason in the fourth quarter. He's the guy, and I just think you got to ride with him, which they did to success. Now, I got to give Karl Anthony Towns credit for two things because we haven't done an ISO show since the end of the last series in the Detroit series, and I thought despite not having a big time scoring game in the last game of that series, I was impressed with Karl Anthony Towns' toughness, which is a sentence I didn't think I would ever say. But in a series like that, on the road where you're getting beat up by Jalen Duren, who Jalen Duren is a scary problem. This dude looks like a fucking Marvel character, action figure in real life. Like, dude is scary. And when you got to deal with him in the paint, plus Tobias Harris is playing aggressive defense, bodying you up. I mean, he should be able to handle Tobias Harris, but nevertheless, he was the only real big man that they had out there. For whatever reason, Thibodeau seems to be afraid to really give Mitchell Robinson too many minutes. I don't know if it's afraid of injury or if it's just sort of a strategic thing. I'm not sure. Maybe he doesn't want to have him, them fouling him, put him on the free throw line, which is why he killed my over points last night. But we'll get into that later. But Karl Anthony Towns, in a game that was played with that level of physicality, for him to stay in there and just completely handle the dirty duties, cleaning up the boards, playing defense. And I thought he even did a decent job defending the rim, which is obviously not his strength. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for the way he played in that last game against the Pistons. And I also think he deserves a lot of credit for how he played against the Celtics. Yes, he got the classic Karl Anthony Towns goofy fouls, but all the years I've watched this guy play basketball, once he gets the goofy fouls, he's out of the game. And both literally and metaphorically. Like, he's out of the game because he has to sit on the bench, and he's out of the game because it takes him out of his game. He has nowhere else to go once he starts getting frustrated with the refs, and he disappears. But in this game, when he got back out on the floor, again, he provided the rebounding, 13 boards. He had the big, huge tip in after the Brunson miss. Um, and despite not having a big scoring output overall, only 14 points, I think he deserves a lot of credit for really upping his game and upping his toughness for this Knicks team. I don't think that they would have been able to pull that game out without him. Kristaps Porzingis, unfortunately, had to leave the game, which is as classic of a quintessential Kristaps Porzingis performance as you can get. Going back to the locker room, coming back not playing. That is classic Kristaps right there. We'll see what his availability is for game 2, but that's in question. But listen, Celtics, you knew that. You knew that going in. You knew when you signed up for the Kristaps experience, this was a part of it. So we'll see if he's available. That could change things for game 2 for the Knicks Celtics series as well. But we shall see. And then there's Mikal Bridges. I got to give Mikal Bridges a lot of credit. Similarly, not a huge offensive game, although he had a huge 3 in overtime. Only 8 points, but obviously tremendous defense, especially down the stretch. Pretty much the defensive hero of the overtime. Had a huge tip block, had a huge steal to seal the game, completely made Jaylen Brown look like a little bitch. I mean, game on the line at home, you let this dude just completely rip the ball away from you like that. That was a huge contrast right there. That was a microcosm of what that game was. It was a tougher team, and you know what? Maybe having that series against the Pistons. I mean, I can't even say that because it's not like the Celtics didn't have a physical opponent in their first round series as well, because obviously they were getting their ass beat up by the Magic. So you would have thought that they would have come into this game tough and with some physicality, but to me it just looked like there was one team. It just looked like there was one team that was physically ready to play this game from a toughness standpoint and one that wasn't. And I'm noticing that a lot in these playoffs. I think that the Lakers series sort of ended that way. It just seemed like the Minnesota Timberwolves finally figured out, like, wait a minute, the Lakers have no center. Rudy Gobert is not an offensive genius, but he's still humongous. Size you can't teach, and especially in the playoffs, like, you can do all the strategic, offensive efficiency all you want, but at the end of the day, there's nothing more efficient than a big motherfucker by the basket. That's as efficient of an offense as you can get. And I think we're starting to learn that from a lot of these teams that are leaning into some of the size advantages that they have. And the Knicks, man, the Celtics. I know the Celtics have gotten criticized a whole bunch for shooting threes, and it felt like last year they proved everybody wrong because they finally got it done and they, stuck to their game plan. shooting a lot of three-pointers, and they kind of came out of that postseason last year feeling like they were vindicated and legitimized the way that they play basketball. But I've said there was a lot of flukiness with last year's postseason run for the Celtics. I don't ever want to take a championship away from nobody. You can't take anything away from the Celtics from last year, but they did not face a healthy team throughout the entire postseason. Like when they faced the Pacers were without Halliburton half the series. When they faced the Cavs were without Donovan Mitchell. So obviously those two teams are completely different teams without their main, not only their main offensive players, their highest usage rate guys. You're playing completely different teams. So a lot of the stuff with the Celtics was circumstantial, and we've seen that in this game. And I can't believe this stat. Everybody's focusing on, the Celtics 15 of 60 for three-pointer, missed 45 three-pointers. To me, what is crazier to me about the Celtics and the three-point variance and the three-point shooting, in the third quarter of a game where you're up 20 points at certain points in the third quarter, and not even in some there's difference there are different types of 20-point leads. There's a 20-point lead in a game that is, each team is going to end up scoring well over 100 points and it's just a run and shoot game. That's one type of 20-point lead. It's another thing when it's a 20-point lead and it's like 65 to 45 and you're in a low scoring sort of defensive struggle game, which is where they were. And you just felt like 20-point lead in a game like that, you should not lose that game. But in the third quarter, the Boston Celtics took 20 field goal attempts and 19 of them were three-pointers. That's not fucking basketball. I'm sorry. And I'm a big defender of modern pace and space basketball. I'm not calling for us to go back to the 90s where everybody's getting beat up, no blood, no foul. I'm not calling for that. That's not pleasing for me to watch. But the polar opposite end of that, when you're up in a game, it's one thing if you're down by a huge margin and the only way to get back into the game is to shoot threes. Fine. You're up by a considerable amount at home. And in the third quarter of the basketball game, you take 20 field goals and 19 of them are threes. That sounds impossible. That's not basketball. Especially considering the idea that the one advantage that everybody saw going into a potential, before we even knew the Knicks were going to be playing the Celtics, all season long, all of the conversation about a potential Knicks Celtics matchup was that Karl Anthony Towns can't defend the rim. But guess what? He don't have to defend the rim if all you're going to do is shoot three-pointers. I'm not sure what my guy Joe Mazzulla was thinking. I know that he can be a little bit stubborn and sticks to his game plan. The guy's a lunatic. But yeah, that was a bad look. And I think Jaylen Brown even commented on it afterwards. And obviously it's easy to be in hindsight like, yeah, they shot too many threes. Of course, when they miss the threes and they lose the game, it's easy to criticize the Celtics. But every situation is different. And I just found it crazy to think that you're going to be up in the third quarter of a game at home in a playoff game and you take one non-3-point field goal in a quarter. That just seems impossible to me. But I guess the Celtics are going to live and die with their shot variance. We'll see what happens in game 2, but I will say great win for the Knicks. Great tough fought game by Mikal Bridges. I think he finally earned his Knicks stripes to a certain degree. I think he's going to have to do a little bit more. It can't just be one game one and then, if they lose 4 straight, that don't mean shit. But we'll see if he can continue to play well. Obviously, Jalen Brunson is at this point, I feel like there's no question as to whether or not he's going to show up. He's pretty much an automatic for me at this point. So, you can count on Jalen Brunson in those clutch moments. And it was an amazing parallel to watch the difference between just what Jalen Brunson looks like in those fourth quarter moments, in clutch time, in crunch time, He's dribbling the ball. He catches the point. He catches the ball at the 3-point line, and he fires a three, and you almost know it's going in. We're on the opposite end of the court, and I hate to say this because I think Jason Tatum takes a lot of unfair criticism, but Jason Tatum, your step back three is never going to be a thing ever. When Jason Tatum is handling the ball up top of the key, and he goes for that step back in any type of crunch situation, you know it's going to be a brick. That's just not he's not that guy. He doesn't have that step back three in clutch time in him. I'm sure people can pull up some highlight of him making a step back three to game winner. Yeah, sure. Bottom line is I've seen him miss way more than I've seen him make in those clutch moments when it comes to ISO step back 3-pointers. No true Celtics fan will tell you that they have confidence with Jason Tatum step back three to try to win a game. Bottom line. If y'all being honest, let's keep it real. The Celtics will have to play with a little bit more versatility on offense. I don't think they're going to go 25% from three for the rest of the series, but I got to give credit to the Wingstop, man. I made fun of the Wingstop because the Wingstop was looking a lot more like barbecue chicken than it was an actual Wingstop earlier in the season. But now we've ratcheted up for the playoffs, and it looks like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, shout out to them, stepped it up on defense. Even Deuce McBride was guarding when he was in there. So while I don't think the Celtics will continue to shoot 25% from three-point land, I do think the Knicks have the ability to make those three-pointers difficult, which is why the Celtics are going to have to figure out a way to find some other offense. And Jason Tatum is more than skilled enough to do so, and so is Jaylen Brown, but they're going to have to step up. So we'll see what happens in game 2. I'm interested in seeing what types of adjustments get made, but I will say whatever happens in game 2, it don't matter if the Knicks get blown out by 50 or if they either way, whether they get blown out by 50 or they blow out the Celtics by 50 in game 2, game 3 at the Garden is going to be a movie. I can only imagine what kind of crowd is going to, just the fact that they took one of these games, they now have home court advantage in the series. That crowd is going to be bananas in the Garden. I can't wait to see it for game 3. And then the nightcap, final game of the night, Nuggets and Thunder. What a game that was. And I'm so upset with the Clippers because I had the Clippers coming out of that series, and then I made the bold proclamation that I thought the Clippers were going to knock off the Thunder because I thought the Thunder were vulnerable, and then the Clippers made me look like a fool. Me and my guy Steve Ballmer, who bought 125 tickets to try to recreate the Intuit Dome wall in Denver, spent all that money, flew those people out from LA for the Clippers to not show up for that game 7, but we won't even get into that. Bring it Let's go! Yes, dude! Let's go, baby! Let's go! LAC! 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 LAC!
Where are we going?
Denver! Go Clips, go! Go Clips, go!
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, LAC! 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 But OKC Thunder's vulnerabilities definitely showed in this game against the Nuggets. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and say that the OKC Thunder are in big trouble. They're going to lose the series. I'm not ready to say that just yet. I still think that the Nuggets have a lot of issues, particularly with depth. But you watched that game last night, man. The Nuggets showed why they're champions. They showed that veteran championship savvy in those late moments very clearly. The Thunder still one of the younger teams, despite having a little bit of a playoff experience and seasoning. They're still a young team. They still have not proven that they can get it done in those clutch moments. And if they're not going to blow the Nuggets out, I'm going to take the Nuggets to win all the close games because you watch Aaron Gordon, man. He's not one of these dudes that you're going to build a franchise around. He's sort of this in between hybrid type of player. I don't feel like I think to call him a role player would be disrespectful, but to call him like a star player would also be way out of bounds. But he's just, at this point in his career, man, he makes all the right plays. He knows the moment. He had the huge rebound and called a timeout in crunch time, obviously hit the game winner. And a lot of people are giving him grief for getting that shot blocked off the offensive rebound and not passing it out to Jamal Murray. You play big boy basketball, man. People need to stop with this bullshit with the three is better than the two. Yes, the three is better than the two in a lot of situations, but sometimes manning up and playing fucking big boy basketball is better than the three. And I think the veteran teams, championship caliber teams understand that on the floor. They understand that there's no exact equation that's going to tell you when to take the three or when to take the two or when to draw the foul. Hoopers know, basketball veteran, savvy, experienced, winning players make winning plays when the time comes, and it's instinct and it's a learned behavior, and you just see that from the Nuggets. We saw that in Game 7 against the Clippers, and we saw that in Game 1 against the Thunder. The Thunder, maybe they make some clutch time plays in Game 2 and get the series back under control, but you saw how Jokic played in the last. I mean, come on, man. Jokic, 42 points, 22 rebounds. 22 rebounds. Like, without even breaking a sweat. Obviously, they're breaking a sweat, but like, yo, this dude puts up these 20 these 20 rebound games like they're nothing. Like, we watching Will Chamberlain type shit out here. I mean, it's crazy. He hit a huge three in crunch time, which he don't even really be taking threes like that. But again, he just knew the moment. Knew the moment, made two threes, but one of them was one of the biggest shots of the game. Shea played a good game, 33 points, 10 rebounds. Nice game for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't think it was a no-show from him, but I think the Thunder just made some mistakes down the stretch that cost them the game. Again, I think the Thunder probably played the better game, outplayed the Nuggets, but that's not what it's all about in the playoffs. I think the Cavs learned that against the Pacers as well in their game one on Sunday. You can't play that same type of regular season running up and down the court. It's just it's not the same type of game in the playoffs. And I think the Nuggets understand that. And until the Thunder understand that, I'm taking the Nuggets to win the series. Again, I still think the Thunder are the better team, but until they show that they can get past those moments, I still got to take Jokic, man. There were moments where it looked like he's coaching the team too. He's doing some Bill Russell / Will Chamberlain type shit out there, and it's wild what Jokic is doing. I think they're probably gonna name SGA the MVP, but Jokic is the real deal, man. People need to stop playing these games. Speaking of the Cavs and the Pacers, Kenny Atkinson did not coach a great game in that game one with the Cavs and the Pacers. Cavs lose game one at home, coming off of they were huge favorites. The way that they washed the Heat out of the playoffs was scary for everybody on the East. They immediately became the prohibitive favorites to go to the finals and come out of the East. And then they lay an egg in game one. Now they didn't have Darius Garland available, but even so, again, sometimes I understand that the Cavs built this whole regular season playing high paced, best offensive efficiency rating in basketball in the regular season. But you have two huge dudes in Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Huge dudes who have skill. I'm watching this game and I'm just watching Evan Mobley chilling out by the 3-point line like the whole game on offense. Not in a position to get an offensive board, not in a position to get defensive boards either. They had Halliburton dancing with Jared Allen at the top of the key. Kenny Atkinson, coach of the year, deservedly so, but he's gonna have to make some adjustments. If he's gonna be married to this we're going to try to play our regular season style of basketball in the postseason, Rick Carlisle is going to have that ass. Rick Carlisle knows better. Rick Carlisle does what he needs to do with the Pacers. The roster is built to maintain pace, and they're going to do that even throughout the playoffs. But Rick Carlisle's been around long enough to know that he's got to have some tricks up his sleeves for when the game slows down inevitably and in those clutch moments. And the Pacers, despite it being sort of kind of lucky break, the way that they ended up in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, they still were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And that was, if nothing else, a little bit of a seasoning and a little bit of learning experience for them as well. So unless the Cavs make some adjustments and Kenny Atkinson kind of understands how to slow the game down and how to get the ball inside. Donovan Mitchell had a terrible shooting game, 1 for 11 from 3 in that game. I think for Donovan Mitchell to go 1 for 11 from 3 and still drop 33, I'm taking his over in points tonight. I think it's still only at 28 and a half. I think he might go for 40 tonight because Darius Garland's still questionable. Seems to have some type of turf toe injury. Now they're saying they don't know when he's coming back. At first, I was hearing that he could have came back for the last game of the Heat series, but they had the series in hand, so he figured he'd get some extra rest. Now they don't know when he's coming back, so who knows what's going on with Garland. Evan Mobley tweaked an ankle. Now he's questionable for this game. And DeAndre Hunter also sprained his thumb, so he's questionable for this game. So who knows what kind of roster the Cavs are going to have out there. But regardless of whether these guys play or not, we understand that they will be limited, if nothing else. And I think Donovan Mitchell understands that this is a moment where he's going to have to put the Cavs on his back offensively because he doesn't know what he's going to get from any of these guys, even if they do play. So I'm leaning on Donovan Mitchell this game, as I think the Cavs will. And then for the final game of tonight, Warriors pulled out that game 7 against the Rockets, and now they're headed out to Minnesota, where Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, and Dante DiVincenzo will all be waiting. Warriors, big dog in this game, 6.5-point dog. I think that's appropriate. Coming off of a game 7, it tends to be a difficult task to ask for a team to come out of a game 7 and then go on the road and win game 1. Although we did just see the Nuggets do it, we'll see what happens. But the one thing I'm going to be keeping my eye on with the Warriors is Draymond Green. Draymond Green had 4 technical fouls in the first round of the last in last series, first round of these playoffs. In the NBA, your 7th technical foul of the postseason is an automatic 1-game suspension. So it's not a question of if, it's just when Draymond Green is going to get suspended. Because you mean to tell me he's got 3 technical fouls to give and he's got to play at minimum 4 games against Rudy Gobert? No way. He's not going to make it out of this series. And even if he does make it out of this series, even if the Warriors get past the Timberwolves, Draymond Green is getting suspended at some point. He's not going to make it to no NBA Finals without, especially after he already has 4 technical fouls. It's not going to happen. So that's one thing I'm definitely keeping an eye on to see how that goes. But besides that, it's going to be an interesting series. It's going to be interesting to see Jimmy Butler revenge series going up against the Wolves, team that he played with briefly. A little bit of a revenge series for Dante DiVincenzo, too, going up against the Warriors. I'm going to be looking at both of their props from a betting standpoint, just because I know the motivation is going to be there for Jimmy Butler and for Dante DiVincenzo. So I'm keeping an eye on that. But that game, don't really know what to make of it. It's the first game of the series. We're going to have to see how they match up. I know Steve Kerr is going to have some tricks up his sleeve. I don't know who he's going to go with. Maybe we see a little bit more Kevon Looney in this series. I'm seeing here that Gary Payton is questionable, which that's going to hurt the Warriors. Gary Payton, illness, questionable for the Western Conference second round series against the Timberwolves on Tuesday. If Gary Payton is unable to go, that's going to hurt the Warriors because he's probably their best wing defender and probably the guy who they feel most confident going up against Anthony Edwards. Not that you really feel confident that anybody's going to shut down Anthony Edwards, but he's at least one of the better guys you could throw at him. So being without Gary Payton Jr. is going to really, that's going to hurt the Warriors if he's unable to play. If he's unable to play, I think we'll see a little bit more Moses Moody, despite Buddy Hield's 30 whatever point game 7 where he lit it up 9 of 11 from 3. This might not be a Buddy Hield series because unless he's going to put forth another big time offensive game like that, he's not going to be able to defend Anthony Edwards, and that might get him played off the court. But we shall see. We'll see how these guys play it. We'll see if Chris Finch goes back to a big lineup with the Wolves and starts playing around the way he did the first couple of games of the Lakers series. And we'll see if Draymond can continue to be that big man anchor for the Warriors on defense without getting into trouble and without getting thrown out of the game. Because we know, listen, if the Timberwolves are smart and if Rudy Gobert is smart, I'm doing everything I can to try to get this guy Draymond Green out of here. Whether it works or not, we'll see. But I'm excited for it. It has been an amazing, amazing NBA playoff so far. I'm going to try to keep the ISO shows coming. We'll definitely do another one. I'm going to do another one tomorrow to preview Knicks Celtics, dig a little bit deeper into it. But we'll definitely do a recap afterwards, 100%. Maybe try to go out there. Go out to the Garden and get a feel for the crowd, for the vibes. But we'll see what happens. But until then, stay tuned. We'll have a NFL scheduling preview as well coming up soon. But for right now, we're going to stick with the NBA, the ISO show, 3 to the dome. Peace.